In a future where disease, pollution, and corporate greed have made getting a delicious meal more difficult than ever, the residents of Night City must prepare their food without eggs, dairy, or meat. This is Cyberpunk Kitchen. We will recreate meals from the action role-playing game Cyberpunk 2077 using ingredients that are readily available. So let's get started with today's recipe and see what a cyberpunk future might taste like.
Today's recipe has at least 3 in-game references. Various pierogi world shops that are found throughout Night City. A message from Panam saying that pierogis are her favorite food. And finally, a shard in Dogtown encountered during the quest Dazed and Confused. If you're not familiar with pierogis, they are a Polish dumpling very similar to a ravioli. Pierogis may contain savory or sweet fillings and are often topped with a sauce or a spoonful of sour cream. The savory variety are suitable for the main course of a meal, and that's what we'll be making today. We'll start by preparing some different fillings. You obviously don't have to make all 3, but these are the fillings that I see most often in restaurants and stores. Any one of them should make a good meal. The first filling is mushroom and onion. Dice the mushrooms and onion into 1/4-inch pieces or smaller. Saute the mushrooms and onions in a tablespoon of oil at medium-high heat until they give off their moisture and said moisture evaporates. Stir constantly to prevent sticking to the pan. About 8 minutes. Remove the mushrooms and onions from the pan and set aside to cool. The second filling is sauerkraut. Empty the contents of a 14-ounce can of sauerkraut, liquid and all, into a frying pan. Stir in a tablespoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of caraway seeds. Cook until the liquid boils away. Remove the mixture from the pan and allow to cool. The final filling will be potatoes and cheese. In a stock pot or large saucepan, bring 2 quarts of water to a boil. While the water is heating, peel the potatoes. When the water boils, add a teaspoon of salt and the peeled potatoes. Don't let them splash, the water will burn you. Boil for 20 minutes. Remove from heat and drain the water. Crush the potatoes with a spoon or a masher, but leave them chunky. And set aside to cool. Many of the dough recipes I found already met the Cyberpunk Kitchen criteria of no eggs, no meat, no dairy. If you already have a favorite dough recipe that calls for egg, remember, there are egg substitutes available at most grocery stores that will keep your recipe cyberpunk compliant. Mix the flour and salt in a bowl. I'm using a 50-50 mixture of whole wheat white and unbleached flour. Melt the butter in the water and add the dry ingredients all at once. Mix with a spoon until a ball is formed. I had to add some extra water, probably because I was using whole wheat flour. Remove the ball from the bowl and knead by hand, or in a mixer with the dough hook for 5 minutes, until the dough is smooth. Cover the dough in plastic wrap and allow it to rest for 20 or 30 minutes. After resting, divide the dough into 4 quarters. We'll only be working with a quarter at a time to prevent the dough from drying out. Wrap up the unused dough in the meantime. To make the wrappers, the dough is rolled out to a 1/8 inch thickness. I ended up using the combination of a rolling pin and a pasta roller. A pasta roller isn't strictly necessary, but it makes the job easier. Individual wrappers are made using a 3-inch cookie or biscuit cutter. Form a ball out of any leftover dough and roll it out again. If there isn't enough left over, grab some more dough from the wrapped up ball. To make a pierogi, cup a wrapper in one hand, then spoon in a heaping teaspoon of filling. Use your finger to brush on a bit of water around the edge of the wrapper. This will help seal the pierogi. Fold the wrapper in half over the stuffing and pinch the edges together. Use the tines of a fork to seal the edge. I found this ravioli press. It works pretty good for pierogis too, provided that you don't overstuff it. For the potato and cheese stuffing, I found that I had to chop the cheese shreds even smaller to prevent them from poking out past the edge of the wrapper. Keep rolling, cutting, and stuffing pierogis until you run out of dough or stuffing. Bring 2 or 3 quarts of water to a boil. Gently place the raw pierogis in the water. When they rise to the top, remove them from the water with a slotted spoon. If you're planning to freeze the pierogis for later, this would be a good time to do it. Place the boiled pierogis on a cookie sheet, making sure they aren't touching, and freeze them. Once frozen, place them in an airtight bag. It's possible, technically, to eat boiled pierogis, but for a truly excellent meal, they need to be pan-fried. Heat oil in a saucepan. Place thawed pierogis in the pan and fry for about 3 minutes. Use tongs to flip the pierogis and cook the other side for another 3 minutes. Remove from the pan and serve immediately with a dollop of non-dairy Cyberpunk 2077 approved sour cream. Yes, that's a thing. I found it in the health food store. Obviously, the nutrition will vary depending on the filling selected, so these are just estimates. I broke down the cost by the type of pierogi filling. Again, cost will vary depending on the exact ingredients available to you. Let's take a look at what the Primometer has to say. This recipe gets a gonk. The results taste great, and the pierogis are easy to store, but there's quite a bit of work that goes into making up a batch. Probably too much work for a casual meal. Let me know if you try this recipe and what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.